Hello and welcome to the inaugural education edition of the Global Postpos Talk Series. My name is Shashi Velit. I'm Executive Director of Bridge Institute and a board member of Mission Better Tomorrow. We are honored by the presence of Nobel Peace Laureate event. Welcome, sir. Hundreds of thousands of people are eagerly waiting to listen to your talk on globalizing compassion for children. I would also like to welcome the patron of Mission Better Tomorrow, Inspector General P. Vijayan. POSPA stands for Positivity and Possibilities. This program, conceived by I.E. Vijayan as an inspirational talk series for students and youth across various digital platforms during the COVID-19 lockdown, has now acquired a massive following over the last few months. Every Friday evening at 7 p.m., more than 300,000 or 3 lakh young people log into this talk series along with their families across Kerala, India, and other parts of the world. To kick this online event off, I would like to invite Shri Saif Mohammed, CEO MBT, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shashi. Actually, this is a very special evening for all of us. It's a matter of great joy for Mission Better Tomorrow that today we are launching the global version of POSPOS to instill positivity and spread the courage to explore possibilities to navigate through these troubled times. The joy is doubled when we have none other than the pride of India, the crusader of child rights, Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi sir among us to speak at the first global version of POSPOS. He needs no introduction. His immense work to liberate children from all sorts of hazardous situations through many number of initiatives, such as Bachpan Bachao Andolan, has been an inspiration for anyone and everyone interested in the well-being of children. Let me not take much time to deliver this welcome address because we all are here to listen to Satyarthi sir and his words of wisdom. Sir, we are blessed to have you as a speaker of this evening. And on behalf of everyone at MPT and hundreds and thousands of people watching this program from around the globe, let me with all my heart welcome you to this robust virtual gathering, sir. Let me share a couple of things about Mission Better Tomorrow also. MBT is a global collective which works for the creation of peaceful, productive, and progressive societies by investing in the young, budding youngsters of our country. We have been most active during this COVID period. For example, the Feed a Stomach program, which we started during this lockdown, has distributed around 7 lakhs food packets to those homeless, those who were hungry, and the COVID warriors. We had around 24 Feed a Stomach kitchens around Kerala, and we distributed around 7 lakh food packets. With the support of Student Police Cadets program and our Responsibility to Children program, we could distribute around 6,000 television sets to children whose education has been affected due to the lockdown so that they could watch the classes telecasted through the government education channel. And we also have a blood donors bank called Jeevadhara Blood Donors Bank with the support of SPC, where we have 3 lakh willing donors ready to donate blood during the COVID period. And many other programs, say Chiri. Chiri means smile in Malayalam. This is the program which we started for children because lots of children were suffering from a lot of emotional and other issues, and even there were a lot of suicides being reported. So as an online counseling and support program, social support program, Chiri was initiated, and so far we have got around 7,000 calls of distress from children, to which we have attended to the most. So these efforts made us realize that during these challenging times, it's important to touch human minds with the message of positivity and help them explore the possibilities to overcome the challenges of life. Thus, POSPOS was born, and it stands for Positivity and Possibilities. We have eminent speakers joining us every week, and we engage around 300,000 audiences through different social media platforms of MBT. Impressed by the support and demand from POSPOS audiences, we are turning global today. Truly global, because we have audience we have people joining from India, Europe, US, UK, Africa, Middle East, Far East, and so on. And moreover, we have the Masiha of Compassion as a speaker with us. So we can ask for more. And this is now being watched by around 850 people in Zoom. And this has been live telecasted around thousands of social media pages, Facebook pages, YouTube pages, and all. And we are expecting around 4 to 5 lakh people to watch this program. Also, Sri P. Vijayan IPS, who was awarded the CNN IBN Indian of the Year Award in 2014 and known for nationally acclaimed youth-centered, child-centered initiatives, has been the mentor and constant inspiration behind MBT. We are happy that he's there with us to deliver the opening remarks. I welcome you, sir, to this gathering today, the global version of POSPOS. The works of MBT would have remained a distant dream without the hard work of people working, the team working with MBT. I welcome you all to this gathering. And last but not least, we have the audience of POSPOS who have been with us for all these months, constantly supporting us from all around the globe. I welcome you all to this program. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Over to you, Shashi.
Thank you, Saif. I would like to acknowledge the tremendous work you and your team has done. I would also like to acknowledge and thank thousands of young people that I can already see who have joined the Mission Better Tomorrow digital pages on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and through other pages, and are eagerly waiting to listen to Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji. Can I, before we begin the talk, can I request the MBT production team to play the video on Nobel Laureate Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji?
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2014 is to be awarded to Kailash Satyarthi for the struggle against suppression of young people and children.
There is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that the laws and constitutions are unable to protect our children. Today is the time for every child to have the right to life. I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery can ever be more stronger than the quest for freedom. I refuse to accept here.
Getting a greeting like this is all the reward Kailash Satyarthi needs for freeing these children from a life of slavery. He tries to give these kids the childhood they missed.
Do you think these kids see you as a Nobel Peace Prize winner?
Oh, I don't think they see me as friend or brother or something like father. I have looked into their frightened and exhausted eyes. I've held their injured bodies and I have felt their broken spirits. I refuse to accept that children belonging to certain sections of society are born to work for others at the cost of their childhood and freedom and education. If the children are exploited, if the children are deprived from their childhood in any part of the world cannot live in peace. The world cannot be human.
It's not often the two winners of the Nobel Peace Prize get together, but it happened yesterday when President Obama met Kailash Satyarthi. They were joined by 3 children who were rescued from child trafficking and forced marriage.
You cannot live in isolation. All the problems and solutions are interconnected. And so the problem of child labor in any part of the world is your problem.
Satyarthi organizes raids with local police, but sometimes employers are tipped off and waiting for him armed.
But I have been attacked many times in my life.
You had a gun to your head?
Literally, here.
This is dangerous work, freeing these kids.
Somebody has to pay the cost for freedom. It does not come on plate. So if not me, then who else will do? Nobel Prize.
Who won the Nobel Prize, he asks. Their reply, all of us kids.
It's good. Every single minute matters. Every single child matters. Every single childhood matters.
Such a powerful video. Such a powerful video. Thank you, Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji, for tirelessly defending the rights of children across the world and inspiring governments, businesses, civil society to create societal ecosystems in which children can flourish and harness their true potential. I would now like to invite Inspector General P. Vijayan to deliver the opening remarks. May I request Inspector General Vijayan that before he commences his talk, that I take this opportunity to share the tremendous game-changing work that he has done for children in India. The statistics are, staggering. He has transformed the lives of more than 500,000 children over the last 15 years through his iconic program, the flagship program that he initiated in 2005 called the Student Police Cadet, which last year, in 2018, the government of India declared it as a national scheme. And then through his programs like founding of programs like Our Responsibility to Children, which is now functioning, which is now reaching to 350,000 plus students across Kerala, and other programs like Hope that look at disadvantaged children who are not being able to perform well in academics and to sort of lift their academic performances. The tremendous work that you've done, IG Vijayan, has changed the lives of several students, and we hope to, you to share the magic of what you have done over the last 15 years. Thank you. The floor is yours, Inspector General Vijayan.
Thank you, Shashi. Very good evening to you, sir, Satyarthi, sir, and thank you so much for joining us in this fine evening. I, once again, on behalf of our entire team, extend a great, big salute to you, sir, for your great service to the society, for creating a better tomorrow. And I'm very happy to inform you, sir, we have also been working with your team here, BBA, for last few years. And Mr. Prasin from BBA has been constantly keeping in touch with us and coordinating various initiatives in Kerala. And sir, I would like to make a short presentation on this this issue, this entire topic, sir. Sir, there is the privatization, liberalization, and globalization has been in practice for last 20 years. But along with many advantages, it has created a huge divide between the haves and have-nots. It is true that it cannot be reversed. And as sir has rightly mentioned, the only way out is that globalization of compassion along with the globalizing market and economy. So that is, sir, to my friends, that's the world is young, and India is youngest as far as the demographic statistics is concerned. And that is in more than 1/4 of the population in the world is below the age of 14, and the global population of around 42% or the nearly 50% are below the age of 25. And India is, in a way, we can say that it's one of the luckiest country, and that is we have nearly 1/3 of its population below the age of 14. That means nearly 40 crore. And the question is that all these are really a demographic dividend, or we are really investing into this in these children. It's a big question. Each one of responsible Indian or the responsible global citizen should ask to themselves. That is some of the hard realities that at least according to the WHO statistics, at least 20% of our children are facing one or other sorts of mental illness, and substance abuse is becoming one of the rampant one, and malnutrition. It's considered to be one of the serious challenge as far as the world is concerned, especially among the children. And the school, nearly at least 20% of the children have been denied of their school education. And according to the Indian statistics, nearly 47 million Indian children are not reaching up to the 10th standard. And the child labor, child trafficking, it has been considered to be a very serious issue, and the violence against the children too. Here it has this issue, this problem has become more severe due to the eruption of this COVID-19 pandemic. The children are the most deprived among all sorts in the entire different parts of different age groups, and their schools have been actually closed. Really, in case of the children, it is that the lockdown is not over. They're still in the four walls of their houses, and that is the mental and physical agony that they have been undergoing is immense and inexplicable. Actually, it has resulted in several, including suicides across the world. And there is no point of discussing too much about this problem. And so how we can be part of the solution, that's we, the MBT team or the Kerala police and all together was working on. Some solutions, sir, we have found out that is we are being implemented. Shashi was talking about that. This one is that is the student police cadet program. It is to empower, engage, and enable the students as responsible and capable citizens of a democratic country by inculcating within them the respect for law, discipline, and empathy for vulnerable citizens of society, and resistance towards the social evils, and enabling them to explore their inner capabilities. And so that's the one problem with the little video I would like to express. It's not okay. Video. Okay. So, okay, can you hear me, Shashi?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sir, the student police cadet program we initiated in 2010 to develop our high school students as the responsible and capable citizens of tomorrow. And that was taken over by the state government in 2010 and rolled out the nationwide in 2018 by Government of India. Right now, over 1 million children are undergoing training. And that is, okay.
So, IG Vijayan, these are pictures of various activities that children are doing.
Yeah. Okay, that's yeah. Next slide. Okay, so then right now 1 million children are undergoing training in India and several neighboring countries. That's the Sri Lanka, Maldives, Ghana, and some of the African countries came here, and they are in different stages of implementing this program. Another initiative, sir, that is to address the increase in deviancy among the children, that is to identify, scientifically correct and reintegrate children at risk, and it has been supported by UNICEF and Mission Better Tomorrow. So far, nearly 14,000 children have been supported by this team, and we have nearly 17,000 resource person, teachers, and other psychologists and psychiatrists among our teams. And there is a very scientifically developed implementation strategy with the support of UNICEF. And another initiative, sir is very fond of, that is creating child-friendly villages, child-friendly nations, and then we have created around 110 child-friendly police stations in Kerala to create an invisible wall of care and protection. And this is also been supported by the UNICEF. In process, in infrastructure, ambience, and attitude of the police personnel. That is, these child-friendly police stations have been considered to be a huge success. BBA has been part of developing these manuals and this the SOPs for these child-friendly police stations. And that is during this COVID-19 pandemic, we have been, and as Mr. Saif was talking about, we have been engaging, empowering, and enabling our children in various ways. And so here, sir, we have been following your footpath in this empowerment of children for last 15 years in one way or other. And we have been getting constant support from different parts of the world also. That is, especially we initiated 3 major programs during this COVID-19 period. That is to help out these children in distress. We have set up a helpline. We have received over 9,000 calls. Actually, it is not just a counseling. It is actually helping out the children in all forms. If there is a family dispute, we have a district domestic conflict center, resolution center we have created. And if there is, they have some financial problem, we are trying to help it out with the help of the NGOs and all. And there is 3 talk series also, sir, we have started that. Basically, that is a Monday talk series we have created, developed. It's actually for this encouraging and motivating children with when interacting with the young achievers. And also, besides this post talk series, so we have a comedy talk series. So also, we are organizing every weekend to engage the children because they are really in trouble. So we would like to create at least some sort of happiness in their mind through introducing to young this famous comedians of Malayalam film world. That's all, sir. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this evening, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, IG Vijayan. I feel it's also important to mention that your journey from being a child worker, a child laborer to an IPS officer is an inspirational journey for several young people. And that experience that you had, in your childhood, a very extreme, constrained and difficult situation in which you grew up and had to fend for your family when you were still a child, is what has helped you create policies and, game-changing work in your service as a police officer. Thank you so much, IG Vijayan. And without any delay, I would now like to invite Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi ji for his talk. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Namaste. My dear young friends, actually, I saw a glimpse of a beautiful girl sitting close to one Mr. Nair. So let me begin with her. Let me begin my address addressing that little girl. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are there some other children listening to this, or you are the only one? Only one. Oh, there are others also. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I will also tell some stories of my childhood if some young friends, child friends are listening to me. Dear brothers and sisters, and my very, very respected and dear brother Vijayan ji, I know about you and your work. If India has police officers like you, then nobody can stop us in entering into a better tomorrow. better safety of people, better and more prosecutions, convictions, and better justice, fast justice. And I am so proud and happy to talk to young people, student cadets, and I heard that there are some IPS trainees and others are also attending it. So it's a great gathering. And this shows that better tomorrow is not only possible, but it is inevitable. When we have such people amongst us, then we are sowing the seed of betterment in the present so that the tomorrow is going to be even much better. My topic looks like a preaching topic, compassion. It also looks like a spiritual, philosophical, or religious topic. I don't know who has given me this topic, but I am so thankful because I am saying that it is not a spiritual or a preachy or a religious, philosophical thing. It is much more practical. Let me begin with one or two of my childhood stories, looking at the beautiful faces of my young daughters. When I was 11 years old, my best friend did not appear in my classroom one day. I thought that he might be sick or he might be having some family problem. He did not come next day and next day and next day, so I was a little bit worried. And when I went to find him in his home, that was just one small rented room. He was living with his brother because he lost his parents. So his elder brother was selling something on road and somehow they were surviving. Then the landlady told me that your friend and his brother left because they were not able to pay even the rent of this room, and they had no money for education or especially for paying the fees and syllabus books. I started crying. I sat in a corner and kept on crying for a few days. But I was struggling in myself that what to do. Why my friend, because of poverty or acute poverty, was forced to leave education. And that has given me some idea or some sort of spark that I have to do something. I cannot simply sit and cry. So I spoke to one of my other friends and we had a plan. And that plan was supposed to be executed on the day when our school results were announced on 30th of April every year. So we had to wait for a few months. And of course, my friend and I were good in studies, so I was scoring 100% or 90% or 98% marks, so I was not worried about my result. So my mother gave me some money to take some prasadam and offer to the nearby deity. And so was with my friend. So both of us had some money. And the idea was that out of that money for prasadam, we will hire a small cart. You know, this four-wheel cart, which is pulled or sometimes pushed by the street vendors who sell fruits or vegetables. So on that day, we rented it and we went not in my neighborhood because I was a little bit shy or not confident. My parents might have scolded me. So I thought that I would go somewhere else. So two of us took a tour in some other neighborhoods. My friend was standing on it and I was pulling. We did turn by turn. And then I was chanting, uncle, aunties, mataji, pitaji, sisters, brothers, congratulations. Today your sons and daughters and grandsons have passed and they have gone to a next grade. So people started coming out and they thought that what kind of theater is going on the street and somebody is chanting and congratulating us. So there was like a mela on the road or magic on the road. When they came out, I said, Namaste. Your children have passed and went in next grade. But what about other children who could not afford fee and syllabus books? Their parents are poor and they were forced to leave education. So some women and men started thinking, and then I put my jholi, a kind of cloth I was carrying, as a beggar. And then I called, sir, madam, mother, father, mataji, please think of those children. And if you have spared books, because the books, textbooks belonging to your parent, your children, will go waste. You are going to throw them away or they would be lying somewhere. So why don't you give it and put it in my cart so that we will make sure that other children, needy children could be benefited. So this was like a wildfire. The people keep on putting the books, and within few hours, two of us were able to collect more than 2,500 books, 2,500 books. And those books belonged to different classes and different courses and so on. And we had no idea about the subjects because at that age of 11, we did not read and we have no idea about those subjects, but we kept it, and with the help of a teacher, we segregated them. And then I saw that my elder brothers or my father used to go to bank sometimes. So an idea came to my mind that let us keep these books somewhere as a book bank. As a book bank. It was half a century ago or more than that. So with this idea, we went to our headmaster and many of them decided to help us. And within few weeks, we were able to collect over 10,000 books. And that has become a big book bank, which was managed by a group of headmasters and teachers. And every child who was needy was able to borrow books for the whole session, for the whole year, and supposed to get it back after the examinations are completed. I was so happy, people started calling me Kailash Book Bank Bala, the book bank boy. People still know like that. And after my Nobel Prize, when I first went to my hometown, you can imagine that the entire town was on the streets, and it was more than a celebration. It was so overwhelming. And then suddenly in that crowd, two elderly people were crying in tears. Many people were crying, but they said, Kailash, Book Bank Bala, just listen. I wanted to come and see you, hug you. And I got down from my open jeep. It was difficult for police to control the situation, but I went out and I hugged them without knowing. So one of them said that I'm retired as a headmaster, and in whole my life, I decided that I'm going to educate my children free of cost if they were weak in some subjects. And that was possible because during all my student life, I borrowed the books from your book bank. I'm so thankful to you, he said. And I started crying. I did not cry when the Peace Prize was announced. I was happy. I said, okay, good. It was great recognition for my children. But that day I started crying because I felt that this is my real prize. The seed of compassion or the spark of compassion should be the reason behind it. Dear friends, we are all born with the ocean of compassion. In fact, sometimes I say that compassion is a biological thing. When a child is born, the bond between the mother and the child. And when the child cries, the mother could not stop. She becomes desperate to feed, and the milk comes out from her body. All these biological or neurological reactions have a very direct linkages with the evolvement of compassion towards two beings. That is with the animals also. You can see that the animals can feel, and one can feel with the animals when you live with them. It is not just the love or adoring for animals, but the relationship goes like that. That is the relationship of compassion. So everybody is born with so many qualities and traits, so many potentials and possibilities. But two things are most important. One is Chetana, the consciousness. If we can feel something, if we can see something, if we are awakened, we are alive, it is because of that consciousness. And another aspect is compassion. Compassion is not sympathy. Let me explain you here in simple words. When you feel the suffering or pain or problems of others, that feeling is expressed in many ways. And one of the outermost circle of that feeling, of connect with other person's feeling, is sympathy. You express your feeling to be sympathetic to someone who is facing the problem. Then that is good, not bad to be sympathetic to someone. That there is another inner circle, and that is empathy. When you feel the suffering of others as your own feeling, that feeling is even deeper, and that is empathy. It's even better. But sometimes the empathetic people, when they keep on feeling the suffering of others all the time, they are burned out, they are depressed, they feel lost, or failed people, things like that go. That kind of emotion can be born. And the third thing, which is much more deeper, that the nucleus of all those things, is compassion. Compassion is the feeling of suffering of others as your own suffering, with a motivational drive, a desire to take action to overcome that suffering. Like when something goes wrong in your body, if you have a bite of a mosquito, or if you have some small injury in your leg or hand, then the whole body, without making much effort, it is effortless action comes in the whole body to act and solve that, and the entire body feels the pain of that small place. That is a body, that is a biological reaction, neurological reaction as well. But when you feel the suffering of others and try to overcome that suffering as your own suffering, that is compassion. So, in this
connected world, we have to see that how we can enlarge the circles of our compassion. Today, dear friends, we know that this pandemic has brought so many challenges. It is not simply a health crisis or an economic crisis. It is the crisis of morality, it's a crisis of justice, it's a crisis of civilization. Many of the injustices and inequalities which were already prevailing in our society globally, they are exposed and exacerbated. I'll give you one example. The world, especially the wealthiest countries, have announced almost $10 trillion as the COVID-19 response fund. But out of that, only 0.13%, I repeat, 0.13%, not 1%, not even 0.5%, 0.13% has been announced for the marginalized children and marginalized people in the developing world or low-income countries. What is this? This is a proof that the world still did not learn. People like us felt that this pandemic will teach us a simple lesson, and the lesson of interconnectivity. We must feel responsible to each other and we must feel interconnected to each other. But we are not feeling. And opposite to it, we are trying to resolve our own issues. The rich countries are spending most of their money. 99% COVID-19 response fund, even more COVID-19 response fund is being spent for rescuing their own banks and financial institutions and supporting industries and companies in their countries. So we have to look at it. Therefore, I kept on calling for many, many years that we have globalized knowledge, economy, technology. We have globalized market, production, wealth, everything. We have seen the good and bad outcomes of it. But we have alienated ourselves from each other. We are not feeling that deeper connect to each other in our personal life, in our social life, in our political and economic life, in our diplomacies, and in our actions. And therefore, there is a need to globalize compassion. My time is almost over, so I can just tell you one or two more things. First thing is that, and that is quite interesting, every single religion is born out of compassion. When Buddha felt suffering of others as his own suffering, he went to look for a solution. So was with Hazrat Muhammad Sahib. So was with so many other great people, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, other people. You look into their childhood, you look into their life, then you will find that there were some incidents or one incident which ignited compassion in them, and they did not sit quiet to be just empathetic or sympathetic to others. They decided to solve the suffering of all people. So it's a great trait. But what we do normally, interestingly, all the revolutions in the world were also born out of compassion. When you talk of Mao Zedong or Marx or Che Guevara or Fidel Castro, they were pained seeing the exploitation and abuses and suffering of other people, poor people. Of course, their path was different, their approach was different, their actions were different, which I never agree with. Someone who always believed in non-violence and peaceful solutions to any problems. But we should not ignore that fact that all the religions and all the revolutions were born out of compassion. God can never be so meager, if we believe in God, that she or he will give us some drops of compassion. Each one of us are born with the ocean of compassion. We have unlimited possibilities because this is your motto, the possibilities. So we have enormous possibilities if we are able to ignite that compassion, and then with that spark, we can enlighten ourselves and we can enlighten the society and the world. And that light will come through the compassion. We have to enlarge that circle, as I said before, and globalize it. We have to globalize compassion in such a way that we have to create the compassionate economies where those companies and directors and board members and chairpersons and the owners of the big industries and companies must feel a kind of interconnectedness with all the people who are contributing in making them so wealthy. We have to think of a compassionate politics. And that compassionate politics is driven by the sense that the leaders who are elected should feel the suffering of others as their own suffering. If our children are dying, if our children are raped, if our children are being abused, if they are sold and bought like animals, if they are producing wealth at the cost of their childhood, freedom and education and future, then the economies and polity has to be compassionate economy and compassionate polity. Even I would say the faith institutions and leaders have to learn compassion. If we have compassionate faith leaders and faith institutions, religious institutions, then there would not be so many problems of violence and hatred and fight and so many things going on under the garb of different religions, because they lack compassion. When the compassion is lost, the soul of humanity is lost. And therefore, dear friends, we have to do every possible thing in globalizing compassion. When I organized the March Against Child Labor in 1998, the Global March Against Child Labor, which went across 103 countries, and we have crossed 40,000 kilometers distance, which is almost double than the periphery of the earth. When I proposed this idea to some people, people thought that, what are you talking about? You are not a politician. You are not a president or prime minister of a country. You are not a king or queen. How can you think of physical march across the globe? We said that I believe in the power of young people. I believe in the power of victims and survivors. They are purer than us. Let us go to the children. So we started with the children and young people, and that march ended up in Geneva. 6-month-long march from 3 corners of the world, merged in Europe, and then we reached Geneva with this demand that we need an international law, international convention against worst forms of child labor like slavery, trafficking, use of children for armed armies and child soldiers and so on. People could not believe when I started. But as the march grew up and we kept on marching, I tell you that almost 15 million people, and most of them were the young people who joined and led the march. And the marchers entered into the United Nations building in Geneva in the General Assembly of ILO, what they call the annual convention. These children chanted, "No more tools in tiny hands. We want books, we want toys." People like us stood up on the dais and said that the world is not so poor that cannot take away the tools and guns from the tiny hands of our children. There is a poverty of compassion, and we have to understand it, we have to acknowledge it, and we have to resolve it. Dear friends, compassion is much more needed now than ever before. If we are not able to act in a coordinated manner, in a compassionate manner, with courage and urgency, I'm afraid that we may lose the entire generation due to this pandemic. We cannot afford it. We will not afford it. And I count on the beautiful young faces with full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and full of compassion under the leadership of a great human being, Vijayan ji. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kailash Satyarthi ji, for that very inspiring and motivational talk. Particularly interesting was, your very elevating comment on how the spark of compassion should be the reason for our action. I think all the young people who are joined and listening to you will surely feel very inspired by this and by the other, beautiful insight. We are born with an ocean of compassion, and there is truly a need to globalize compassion, and nobody else could have put it so brilliantly as you've done. I'm now going to, and thank you for also, wanting to do some brief interactions with young people and others. So I'm going to now open the floor for some interaction and conversation with you. The first on our list is, a young person, Malvika Sajeev. She is an SPC cadet. She is a company commander. She holds charge of junior and senior cadets. Very bright young person. She wants to be an Indian Administrative Service officer and serve the country and the people in the country. Can we have Malvika up, please?
Yes, sir.
Malvika, your question. Please ask your question.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. I am Malvika Sajeev, and I am studying for higher secondary school. And I'm a proud member of the Student Police Cadet Force. We are school students trained in uniform to develop as capable and responsible citizens of a great nation. So my question is, you have said that the slump in industrial activities caused by the pandemic will increase child labor. Bachpan Bachao Andolan saved 1,600 children from exploitative situations during the pandemic, proving your fear. Once the nation opens up after the pandemic.
Hello, there was some disturbance. I could not hear your last sentence.
Malvika, can you repeat your last sentence?
Sir. Yes. Sir, how can we deal with the situation once the nation opens up after the pandemic?
Well, it is not that what we do after the pandemic. A lot of work has to be done now in India and globally. As I was trying to point out that the most marginalized children and their families are going to suffer the most. We have seen in the past that whenever there was a natural disaster or in the situation of wars and conflicts, in the situations of other kind of crisis, marginalized children suffered the most. For example, in Ebola, there's no comparison with COVID-19 and Ebola, but I have met many children in Western African countries where, in Liberia and other places, where one can see a flood of young boys and girls were looking for some sort of prostitution, and the boys were doing some other kind of begging and child labor activities and so on. And most of them, when I spoke to them, I found that most of them were already in schools, but the long closure of school has led to that situation. Also today, when over 1 billion young people, I would say children in primary and secondary classes, are not in schools, and almost half of them have no access or good access to online education, and 385 million globally students were depending on midday meals or other kind of conditional cash transfer schemes or social protection programs. They are going to suffer the most. So we strongly feel that social protection programs should be not only should continue, but also they should be enhanced. Social protection program for children, like the midday meal and other scholarships and other things, conditional cash transfers, but also for their parents. Make sure that how the livelihood or traditional livelihood of these parents and employment could be generated for them, or could be sustained for them. So that is the key. So prioritizing education, well-being, healthcare, and the protection of children in any kind of budgetary allocations by the state governments or by the central government is key factor to protect the generation. That is very important. Similarly, the inequalities which we have seen in other cases now must not happen in the distribution of vaccine. Once the vaccine is available, it should be a common public good, not only in one country, everywhere, and it should reach out to the last person of society. And I would always say that the COVID-19 response fund in any manner would be judged by a little girl whose parents have lost their livelihoods, and the girl was forced to become a child laborer, or she has been trafficked, or could be trafficked, should be the real yardstick to judge the impact of COVID-19 responses. So we have to do many possible things, but more importantly, as I said, that we have to feel a sense of mutual responsibility to each other. That is the biggest learning, that no country, no person can solve the problem in isolation when the problem comes of that nature of COVID-19 pandemic. Then we have to feel a sense of gratitude. And I keep on calling that we have to create a supply chain of gratitude for each other. And that is a behavioral change, but that is also important in terms of maintaining justice and harmony in the society, sustainability in the society. We have to feel that today, for example, I'm talking to you, I'm sitting in a good room in my ashram, and I had my lunch this afternoon, and I'm wearing good clothes, and electricity is there, the online facility is here. But there are so many people, there's a long chain of contributors to bring me to this chair, and I'm able to talk to you. My life is not because of me or because of my parents. My life is because of hundreds of thousands or millions of people, right from the workers and farmers and agriculture laborers and masons and electricians, suppliers, and so many people, teachers. So that sense of gratitude has to be built, and that should trickle down so that we can feel more interconnected with each other. And that would also be a kind of entering into the life of compassion. So many things are possible. Finally, I would say that fair share for children. 20% of COVID-19 response fund must be allocated and spent for the most marginalized 20% children and their parents. And that is the key. And not only for the COVID response issues, but also in the future, that should be a culture, because it's a matter of justice. We have to demand that these people, the marginalized people, should get their fair share in the budgetary allocations, in ODS support, also in laws and implementation of laws, enforcement of laws and protection measures. They must be given their fair share of 20%. So some of those issues we are trying to raise, and we have been successful in mobilizing 88 Nobel laureates and other world leaders in support of this idea on the demand for fair share. But most important thing is, for young friends, I would say, Malvika ji, that you are going to lead this nation in your own way. You have that spark, and that's why you are sitting here and asking this question to me. You are concerned about what has to be done. I can tell you that all young people, especially these beautiful girls, they should think of 3Ds. I'm not talking about 3D cinema, I'm saying 3Ds. The 1D is dream. Dream big, dream bigger, dream biggest. If you can dream, dream the biggest. And those who dream only for themselves, they do not make this world a better place. They can be happy and healthy, perhaps not happy, but healthy, wealthy, and so on. They can gain a lot of power and positions and wealth. But those who can also dream for others, then they make a better society, a better world. So dream big and dream for betterment of everyone. The second D is discover. Discover your inner power. We all are born with inner divine power. Otherwise, why we are born? We all are born with some purpose and something which is missing in our life and in lives of most of the people, that we select a very small purpose of our lives, or sometimes no purpose in life. But when you have a big purpose of life with a big dream, then you can definitely discover your inner power and the outside opportunities. As you said, India is a great country. India may be a country of 100 problems, but it's a land of a billion solutions. So we have to be one of those solutions. And that is possible when you discover opportunities outside. And my last D is, when you can dream, when you can discover, then whom are you waiting for? Then do. So dream, discover, do. Act now. Don't sit idle. So we can do a lot of things. And then we can overcome this aftermath of pandemic and impacts of pandemic, but also we can make a better world and better India. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Malvika, for the question. Thank you, Satyarthi ji, for that wonderful response. Dream, discover, and do, act now. Very inspiring. Thank you also for laying out the almost like a framework of a post-pandemic response that should begin now. And I'm sure people in the MBT team that are working with young people will find a lot of motivation and ideas from the framework that you laid out. I would now like to invite Harish Nair. Harish Nair is joining us from London with his daughter, Lara. Can we have Harish Nair and Lara on screen, please? Harish is a teacher, and an education advisor in London. Harish, can you please ask your question?
Yeah, thank you, Shashi. So good evening, sir. Can you hear?
Yes, of course.
Sir, we live in London, and this is my daughter. She is also an aspiring activist. She wants to save children. And yes, sir. So my question to you is, many people want to stop children begging, waiting tables, or working in shops, but they do not know what to do and how to do it. How can we increase awareness about acting against a violation of child's rights?
Well, so thank you so much, and thank you, Lara.
Thank you, sir.
So whatever I'm talking and doing, it is worth when someone like Lara appreciates it. So thank you, Lara. I would say that when you stop giving any alms to a beggar, child beggar, then your response is bigger. First of all, you know that there's a crime going on, and there are some gangs and mafia groups and others who are running this illicit business or criminal act. So there's a legal aspect in it. If you find unknown children sitting on the streets, then in India we have very good laws. Juvenile Justice Act has a strong provision of children who are in need of care and protection. And there are helplines, child helplines, there are child welfare committees. So there's a big infrastructure and the legal framework which is in support of the children who are in need of care and protection. Those who are abandoned, those who are missing from somewhere. Unfortunately, India has a serious stigma of this missing children issue. 8, 9 children went missing before the pandemic. Now we have to gather more new data. But until a few months ago, it was almost 8 children every hour. And they do not disappear in thin air. They are trafficked for forced beggary or prostitution, child labor, etc. So we have to use the existing laws and institutions. Secondly, if we have some little more time and we can spare that some time with those children, talk to them. They are not going to talk in the beginning, and that needs a lot of patience and resilience. If you keep on meeting those children in weekends or sometimes and sit with them and talk to them, then perhaps their master or someone who is putting them on the streets, a gangster can come and stop you. But that is the there's a real opportunity that should be used to identify that these children must be trafficked children, or these children do not belong to that person who claims that they are their children. So talking to and if you are able to find some more time and reach out to the families of these children, then awareness will help. In many cases, we have seen that these children either are missing children or trafficked children, but also poor children whose parents are also poor. But sometimes the fathers are a drunk person, a drunkard. Sometimes he spends money in other kind of things which are not really good for the betterment of child. So keep on meeting with that group of children and trying to educate them, convince them, and trying to remove them from that situation if they are in clutches of that gangster. So there is another possibility. But definitely immediately call the police or immediately call the people who, if you have slightest doubt, and you can, if you keep your eyes open, then you can definitely understand that these children do not belong to those who claim to be parents.
Thank you.
But again, the more important thing I underline here, Nair Saab, that the most important thing is to deal with these situations through compassion. When you feel that that child is your child, these children are our children, then you will find solutions. I tell you that compassion leads to solutions. Compassion leads to courage. Compassion ignites the leadership in you. It makes you proactive, because then you become the problem solver. Only the compassionate people are the problem solvers. Therefore, let us ignite compassion in us and globalize it.
Thank you, Satyarthi ji. I would now like to invite Aditya Jitesh. He is a 12-year-old student currently living in Bahrain. Aditya did something remarkable in May this year. He walked over 140 kilometers to raise funds for the FINA Care campaign in Bahrain, which was basically a campaign to support people affected by COVID. And he was able to raise 1.4 lakh rupees, which he donated to this campaign in Bahrain. Aditya, please ask your question.
Good evening, sir. My name is Aditya Ajitesh, and I'm an 8th standard student studying in St. Christopher School, Bahrain. Your impressive campaigns to save children from slavery, abuse, and atrocities are famous and have given new life to many of them. In this context, what would be your advice and guidance for our generation to support such drives and potentially to take leadership roles of such socially important movements?
Very good. Thank you. You have already taken a leadership role because your initiative is so commendable, and God bless you with more power and more inspiration for the future. The most important thing now is that how to keep that feeling, that emotion, and that action alive in the future, because now you are an adolescent, and then slowly you will have much more responsibility in your education and university and so on and career. But how to keep it alive? If you really believe in it, then you must do it. I would say that young people can take the initiative, but they should not feel that I have to be the leader and I need the follower for that. If this is the case, then it will not be a healthy situation in the future. Your action will determine, your dedication will determine, your innovation will determine, your way of respecting each other will determine your leadership, and that will prove you a leader in the future. So a lot of things could be done, but more importantly is to keep this thing alive. And then it is equally important that you have to look for some like-minded young friends. And that will help in building a group of youth like you. I tell you that we have launched human history's most ambitious and perhaps the largest ever campaign, and that is called 100 Million campaign. The whole idea is that 100 million young people should become the leaders, spokespersons, champions, and change makers for those 100 million young people who are left out or left behind in slavery, trafficking, and who are marginalized. So 100 million young people should be a partner and friend for 100 million young people. And I am proud to say that in many countries, in more than 35 countries, within a few years, 2 years, it's working well, and students from schools, colleges, and universities are supporting this idea of fair share for children. Many of them, particularly in some of the African countries, in Kenyan slums, the youth decided to form the group of students, and these students are helping out the slum people and slum children in this situation of disaster. So there are so many other great examples, but keep that spark alive, make new friends, keep on working with them. Some will leave you, some may continue with you. Sometimes your parents, today they might be supporting you or encouraging you, but in the future, there are many cases where the parents force their children to concentrate themselves in studies and careers and so on, and earn money and give big names. But let me tell you that we should not become the fuel or a part of an engine which is called just the growth engine. So our minds are seasoned in such a way that we look for our own careers to earn money, and when we earn money, then we are not sitting in the driving seat. We are not taking any decisions. Others do, and we follow them. and then we lost that essence of leadership. So make sure that to earn money and make good career, you should not lose that essence of compassion which you just explained. And compassion does not mean simply charity. Compassion is more closer to justice, because then you start fighting for betterment of the society in a different way. If you do the charity only, then your hand is always upper, and someone who's poorer or have not, his or her hand would be lower, and then you will feel proud, and then ego, and then it is not going to bring about the equality and justice in the society. So your compassion should not lead to mere charity. It should lead towards solving the problem of injustices and wrongs around you, and that you can do.
Thank you, Kailash Satyarthi ji. So, Jidesh, I hope you've taken this wonderful advice, and all the other children and young people who are listening in.
And 1 minute, Jitesh, I can also tell you that when I referred to this worldwide march, the global march against child labor, and millions of young people like yourself participated and led it practically, the concrete result was the universal adoption of that law immediately. When we demanded that there should be an international law, within a year in 1999, ILO Convention on the Worst Forms of Child Labor has been unanimously adopted, and now it has become the only universally ratified law in the world. This is the only universally ratified convention. India is one of the last countries which has ratified, not the last, but India has ratified 2 years ago, and now it is universally ratified. So that is the power of young people. And that time, the number of child laborers in the world was almost 250 million, some say 260 million in year 2000. And that has dropped in 18 years, tremendously, considerably. And that number is 152 million. So from 250 million or 260 million to 150 million. 100 million lesser number of child laborers are found in the world because of that drive, and that is possible. That was one example of globalization of compassion through the young people. We have also launched a similar campaign, Global Campaign for Education. And that was again led by and supported by millions of youth. And that time, the number of out-of-school children in year 2000 was 130 million, according to various agencies, and that has dropped by less than half. So that number is about 60 million primary school age-going children. So there's so many examples when the youth have led the movement, and they succeeded. And this is the case of ecology and environment. Now the global warming issue. This is the case in the fight against gun culture in United States of America. There are so many examples of young people who have proven their leadership and their compassion.
Thank you. Thank you, Satyarthi ji. I've been told by my production team, the MBT production team, that at this point in time, just on Facebook alone, there are more than 500,000 people who are watching the Facebook Live, and several thousands of people on other digital platforms. There are two more questions to go. The fourth question is from Ghana, from Harriet Lamte. Can you come up on the screen, please? She's a graduate from the University of Ghana, and she is a very powerful young advocate of sustainable development goals. She's founded an organization called Hertie Care Foundation, and she takes care of street children and hopes to make a significant difference in life, in their lives through her foundation. Harriet, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you very much. Greetings from Ghana. My name is Harriet Lamte once again, and it's an honor to listen to you, sir. You are indeed a great example of exceptional leadership and the change that we need. Can I be heard? Am I audible?
There's some disturbance in your audio, Harriet.
Is it okay?
Much better now.
Yeah, better.
Is children are the most vulnerable to pandemics, to civil wars, to internal displacements, climate change, and etc. But we rarely talk about them. I want to find out, sir, what can we do to bring children's rights into the mainstream discussion?
I could not hear the last.
Harriet, can you repeat your question? What can we do to?
What can we do to bring children's rights into the mainstream discussion?
What can we do to bring children's rights into mainstream discussions? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So the most important thing is that we have to have strong concern for the children who need us most, whose rights are denied, childhood is denied, and freedom and safety and future is denied. They should be the priority. So one is the political action, and those who are activists, those who are human rights groups and other groups, they are struggling hard to bring the issue of child rights in the global agenda, in the focus, and that is a tough job because as some people say, and I also agree with that, that the children do not have votes, or children do not have that power to influence the conventional politics and so on. So parents of these children have to be mobilized and galvanized to speak out for their children, and that requires a lot of awareness and education. So that is the key. Education is the key to open the doors of all the rights, including the child rights. And a lot of investment is needed to ensure it, especially in this situation of economic crisis. We have to work hard. But more importantly, Henriette, I will say that we have to create an environment where the ordinary people and the governments, the policy makers must value the education. So education is not a charity. Education is not just one of the development agendas. Education is the key to eradicate poverty, to bring justice and equality in the society, and therefore the investment in education should be a big demand from the people, and that needed a strong mass movement globally. And people like us have been involved in it. We have to create a culture of child rights. Normally what happens when we talk of child rights, it's a matter of laws and procedures and so on. That is okay. But more important is that we have to create a culture of child rights when we respect childhood, when we respect the dignity and freedom of children, where we try to build an environment of friendliness with the children, and friendliness begins with the mutual trust. We keep on adoring our children, or we can keep on exploiting children or giving charity to some children. That is not the answer. Answer lies when you create an environment in the family where you listen to the children instead of just instructing them all the time. If the adults feel that children do have something to give to them, only and only our children can give us and teach us purity of heart, simplicity, truth, forgiveness, quest for learning. All these traits are there in the children, which we can learn from them. So we have to build a relation of mutual respect and listen and learn from our children instead of keep on imposing ourselves or some of our ambitions on them. It is very, very important. And only then we can find the sustainable solution to the situation of exploitation of children. I've been working in Ghana for many years, and I have traveled intensely in the cocoa beans production area in Ivory Coast and Ghana. In fact, I was one of the founding members or directors of the International Cocoa Initiative with all the major chocolate companies. And I tell you that I met many children in your country, and I will give a concrete example of a place in Ivory Coast where I met a group of children in a village who had scars in all their bodies and injuries. And then I asked curiously to some of those children, because they were working in cocoa beans farms, and I asked, my dear children, how do you like chocolate? Those children looked at each other. I thought that they perhaps did not understand the language, though I was taking help of a local interpreter. So I kept on asking, how do you like chocolate? Chocolate is like a candy or a sweet bar, very delicious. I tell you, Henriette, that none of them have ever heard or seen or tasted chocolate. None of them had a taste of chocolate. Chocolate companies makes $100 billion, but those children who are producing cocoa beans, they had no taste of chocolate. And that was just next door to your country. Almost similar situations were occurring in Ghana also. So as human beings, we have to have that kind of anger, I would say, not for destruction, not for revenge, not for negativity, but that anger for righteousness, the anger for justice, that something is wrong and we cannot tolerate it. So we have to feel that these children are our children and we have to be friendly with them. And then we can create that culture.
Thank you, Harriet, for that question, and Satyarthi for that very extensive response. Our last question for our session today comes from Steffi Manjuran. He is a trainer with Our Responsibility to Children from Ernakulam district. He's also a motivational speaker. Steffi, can you please ask your question?
Can you hear?
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Steffi Manjuran, working as a trainer in ORC project at Master. ORC is Our Responsibility to Children for identifying and addressing behavioral, social, emotional, and learning issues of children. Here, I would like to thank you for your great vision, which navigate many children's lives for achieving their dreams. You're truly inspirational, sir. And my question is, how practically possible to eliminate or to put an end to child labor in our country, since our percentage of population under poverty line is much more higher? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, first of all, we have to understand that child labor is not an isolated problem. Child labor is interconnected with other things also. We have brought some strong argument about the triangular relationship between the child labor, poverty, and illiteracy. Child labor is the cause and consequence of poverty, and vice versa. Similarly, the child labor is responsible for perpetuation of illiteracy and the denial of education, or if there is no access to education, that will perpetuate child labor. So it continues like that. So that makes a vicious circle, like globally speaking. Today, 152 million children are working as child laborers. 200 million adults are jobless. That was pre-pandemic situation. We don't have the exact figures now, but every single child laborer is working at the cost of one adult's job. And that makes a vicious circle of poverty and child labor. Similarly, we have, as I said, 60 million primary school 8 children are not in schools, and altogether, if we add primary and secondary, that 200 million children are out of school. So 150 million child laborers, 200 million out of school children, primary and secondary, and 200 million jobless adults. And that vicious circle has to be broken. That requires the laws and enforcement of their laws. That requires the accountability of the legal system and fast delivery of justice. That also requires infrastructure of education, good quality, free and inclusive education, which is the global commitment. That also requires the change in the mindset of people. So the social and cultural efforts have to be made. So the combination of these factors can definitely and will definitely end child labor. I'm quite confident, and I always say that we will see the end of child slavery in our lifetime. With your support, I'm sorry I have to receive another call, so I can just tell the story for my children in the last bit of my talk or conversation with you. When I was invited to give my acceptance speech at the Nobel platform, I lost my papers. And then I remembered a story of my childhood. There was a heavy fire broken out in jungle. All animals, birds, everyone was rushing for a safer place, including King Lion. And then Lion noticed that a tiny hummingbird was rushing straight towards the fire. He shouted, "What are you doing? Committing suicide?" She said, "No, sir. I am going to extinguish this fire." He again asked, "How come?" She said, "Look at my beak. I am carrying a drop of water. I am doing my bit." She answered. Dear friends, I am not a priest. I am not a politician. I am not a speaker. I am one of you. I am your friend. I am your brother. And I can tell you here that I am here to tell you that there is a tiny hummingbird inside each one of you. You have that tiny hummingbird. I am here to awaken it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kailash Satyarthi ji.
1 minute, please keep on going. I have to take a quick call and then in half a minute.
Sure,
please
sure.
Go ahead. Yeah.
What we take away from your talk and your interaction is that for us to truly create globalized compassion for children, what we need to do is create a culture of child rights. With that note, I would like to invite Shri Anand Haridas, Content Development Officer for MBT, to give his vote of thanks. Anand?
Thank you, Shashi. I think we'll wait for Satyarthi ji to come back after his call before we formally propose the vote of thanks. It has been a wonderful session. We were planning to hold it for 1 hour, and I can see that it's nearly 2 hours, past 2 hours, and we still have more than 600 people in Zoom and 500,000, as you have rightly said, Shashi, 500,000 people still watching in different social media channels of our Mission Better Tomorrow. We have just started the global edition with this talk, and we do look forward to bringing more such enlightening engagements with leading personalities from across the world. So for my request to those who are watching this live is to stay tuned to post-war series. The global series will be back with more such engaging and enlightening speeches. Shashi, shall I wait till Satyarthi ji come back?
We could wait for a minute and then probably then do a vote of thanks and.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I was just telling the audience, and on behalf of the audience, 500,000 people in different social media channels. Thank you, sir, for awakening that little hummingbird in each one of us. This is definitely a memory that we, the MBT team, are going to cherish for always. For the last 36 weeks, we have been meeting here every Friday, listening to leaders from different walks of life, speaking about their lives and their visions. And sir, yours is the acme of it all. Ever since your name was announced, we were flooded with calls asking for details of the session. People, mostly youngsters, they have been eagerly waiting to hear from you what it means to be a true champion of social commitment. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. You have rightly said we need to spread the compassion within us and around us. We promise you, sir, to keep reminding ourselves of your words and widen our circles of compassion in our own lives. On behalf of Bachpan Bachao Tomorrow, I thank you once again for spending your time with us, sir.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you, sir. Have a good time.
Thank you. I thank our guiding light, Inspector General of Police, Vijayan sir, for helping us and inspiring us to set up this platform where the best of the best minds come together and engage us in highly motivating talks. Sir, you keep us going in our journey in search of positivity and possibility. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shashi, Executive Director of the Bridge Institute and Board Member of MPT, for setting the context perfectly well for the session. And I thank every one of you listening to Satyarthi ji's talk through the different social media channels of MPT. This, as I told you earlier, is the first in the series of Postpo's Global Talk Series. We'll be back with the rest of the ongoing 4th edition of Postpo's Friday Talk Series on next Friday, December the 18th. As you all know, the 4th edition is based on the leadership traits, and the next week's topic is ethical leadership. Let's return for more inspiring talks. That's it for tonight. Wishing you all a great weekend and amazing weeks again. Now, let's all rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण